All right, we're back, Columbia. Fran Halloran here. You're listening to the Fran Halloran Show. Let's get straight to the. I forgot. I do want to get to the inbox, but I got to mention this. Jesse Neer, my estate and probate attorney, the gentleman that I recommend people go and talk to when they have estate issues, when they need a will, anything having to do with estate and probate law. Jesse's my guy. You can go to whoever you want to. There are plenty of people who do that kind of work, but I'm going to Jesse. Jesse's going to be in the studio with me next Thursday. He's going to be here to answer any and all questions that you might have about estate planning, about probate. He will be wonderful to have in the studio, so we're excited about having him next week. Let's get to the emails. Coach Fran, I've heard advertisements on the radio about becoming a safe money millionaire. When I checked it out on the web, it appears it is really pushing the sale of life insurance to save for retirement. Where do you stand on that? Well, I'm familiar with that. As a matter of fact, as I mentioned before, I own an investment and insurance company, and I can tell you that one of the strategies that a lot of the big life insurance companies push on agents and brokers is to sell life insurance as an alternative to investing in the market. And frankly, I don't buy into that mentality myself. I don't believe there's any place you can do better than the stock market. I am familiar with this plan. I know exactly how it works. I don't recommend it to my clients. There may be the occasional situation where someone who has money and is just looking to maybe hedge against losses in the market might do something like this to earn a small return that maybe keeps up with or just barely beats inflation. But for primary investing, my philosophy is and always has been, you buy the least expensive term insurance and you invest the difference that you would have paid in the more expensive whole life or permanent or indexed insurance into the stock market, because the stock market is where you're going to get your best returns. So anyway, that's where I stand with that. Thank you for the question. Coach Fran, what exactly is a 529 plan? Are there contribution limits? Are there any restrictions on how the money in a 529 is spent? Well, that's a great question, and there are some things you need to know about a 529. First of all, they came about in 1996, and just like everything else, 529 is named after a section in the Internal Revenue Code. It's simply a plan operated by a state or educational institution that has tax advantages and occasionally some other incentives to make it easier to save for college and other post-secondary training, and you name a designated beneficiary like a child or a grandchild. The earnings in a 529 are not subject to federal tax and generally are not subject to state tax when used for qualified education expenses of the beneficiary. And that word that I emphasize there, qualified educational expenses, that's where you have to be very careful, because if you don't spend the money on a qualified educational expense, then you will find yourself in a world of hurt with the government. There's two basic types, the prepaid tuition plans and the savings plans. South Carolina had a prepaid and a savings plan a few years ago. They've done away with the prepaid. I frankly believe they did that because it was too good a deal. I have spoken with people in the past about these things, and I know for a fact that there's some folks who are hanging on to these prepaid tuition plans because they're going to get to send their kids to Carolina for, $8,000 a year because they bought a prepaid tuition plan. And Carolina's 20 now, so what a great bargain that was. But today in South Carolina, all we have is the actual savings plan. And to your point about contributions, yes, there are limits, but the IRS is purposely vague. I'm actually reading straight from the IRS website, 529 plans Q&A. Yes, there are contribution limits. Contributions cannot exceed the amount necessary to provide for the qualified education expenses of the beneficiary. Well, where's the dollar amount? Well, there is not one. It says it cannot exceed the amount necessary to provide for the qualified education expenses of the beneficiary. Well, that's vague for a purpose because, frankly, if my kid wants to go to Princeton, that's $65,000 a year, that means I could put $260,000 away, and I could very easily argue that that is the amount necessary to provide for the qualified education expenses of my beneficiary. But here's where it gets a little tough to determine what the IRS is really wanting us to do. You have to be careful if you put more than $14,000 in it per year, because then you could get yourself in trouble with gift taxing. So anyway, 529 plan is a good way to save for college. There are other plans as well, educational savings account, mutual funds accounts, UGMAs and UPMAs with the mutual fund accounts. Know the rules of the game before you start paying saving for your kids' college. There are all kinds of ways out there. There are even people who will tell you that the best way to save for college is one of those life insurance policies. I know people who are making livings doing that. So anyway, great question. Coach Fran, I have enough money in savings to pay off my home. My concern is that I will lose my very comfortable cushion that my savings has become. Should I dip into my savings to pay off my home? Yes, but with a caveat. You should never dip into your emergency fund, your fully funded emergency fund, because remember, in our plan, step one is life insurance, step two is a will, step three is a 90-day snapshot of your spending that becomes a written budget, 4 is a mini emergency fund with $1,000 in it, 5 is pay off all debt excluding your home, 6 is a fully funded emergency fund with 3 to 6 months of your living expenses in it. 7, 8, and 9 are done simultaneously. 15% to retirement, save money for college for your kids if you're so inclined, and pay off your home. Well, you should not use money that is earmarked for your 3 to 6 months emergency fund to pay off your home. You shouldn't. You shouldn't do that. I want you to have 3 to 6 months in liquid savings somewhere so that if you run into a really, really rainy day, you've got a great umbrella to keep you dry. But if you have the money above and beyond your 3 to 6 months, then I can tell you this, I would be debt-free and my home would be paid for tomorrow. I would not have more than my 3 to 6 months just sitting around doing nothing. I would pay off my home tomorrow if I had that kind of money, because imagine, I think we mentioned this last week, if the average house payment is about $1,000 a month, you put $1,000 a month away in a good growth stock mutual fund at a moderately aggressive allocation where maybe you're making 8%, that's $1.5 million in 20 years, if I remember correctly. I'd have to rerun the numbers, but maybe it's $1.2 million. But I'd much rather have $1.2 million than a big cushion, because wow, what a cushion in savings. What a big cushion it would be to have $1.2 million, $1.5 million in my mutual fund account. So last email, because I think we're getting, again, close to the end of our second segment. Coach Fran, I feel like a hamster on a wheel every single month. I cannot seem to catch a break financially. I am frustrated, to say the least. Where do I start? Well, y'all, we get questions like this all the time, either over the phone, through email, in text, face-to-face. If you run into me face-to-face and you ask me this question, you're probably going to hear me say, I'd love to sit down and talk with you, but I don't like to do what we call drive-by coaching. But in this case, I don't know the whole set of circumstances, but here's what I can tell you. A lot of people feel this way. You're frustrated. You got to start somewhere, and you start with one step. Really, you got to call somebody who can help you. We can help you. I mean, it's as simple as that. Give Intentional Planning Group a call. We'll put you in touch with a coach who can kind of walk you through our 10-step plan and hold your hand through it. And here's the thing. I could tell you to go buy a book. I mean, Dave Ramsey's got lots of books, Financial Peace, Total Money Makeover, that can outline it for you. But here's where we think we are a little different. And this is why Dave has guys like me. Some people need someone to hold their hand while they go through the process. Some people get it straight out of the book and they can run with it. Most people don't. So, but you got to start with one step, and it's kind of like if you have an alcohol problem, or a drug problem, or a food problem, or any kind of problem. It all starts with one step. We got to get you off that wheel. Got to get you off that hamster wheel and get you some help. You call us at 792-1045. anytime, day or night. We'll get back in touch with you. We may answer the phone if it's during normal business hours, and we'll get you some help. It's as simple as that, because we don't want you feeling that way. Life was never intended to be so fast and furious that you feel like you're out of breath every single day. It's just that it's not supposed to be that way. It's as simple as that. We want you to have some margin in your life. We want you to have some freedom in your life. We don't want you to be a hamster on a wheel. So give us a call. We're up against another break. This is the end of the second segment. You're listening to the Fran Halloran Show. I am Fran Halloran. Brian Leonard and I will be back on the other side of this break.